around at the old Mid Gun Club. You know, they had a 2-day event out there watching my father and Mark Collins race. So we'd been out in the desert for quite some time and exposed to it and climbing in his cars and doing all that, but it comes from a very, very early age of getting a taste of this.
We didn't have a pickup truck, didn't have that, so we would take his Lincoln Continental out there and my mom would pop the trunk and Ed, Tim, and I would sit in the trunk and wait for my dad to drive by with Mr. Collins.
If we weren't in the desert, we weren't racing off-road cars, we were at the lake doing whatever, but we always did stuff as a family. And that's what I do with my kids. If we're not in the desert, we're not down in Baja, we're doing something together. You know, that's why I had them. I want to be around them and want to see them grow and mature, and I don't know what else I'd do without them.
Always looking forward to skipping school, heading down to Contingency Road down on Fremont Street, and then the next morning seeing them drive all the cars out to the start-finish line at the gun club, and we just hang out and wait all day long. We had a blast.
Off-roading, I mean, I've been around it my entire life, watching my dads and my uncles do it, and first memory I have is going out to the Mint 400, the Parker 425, and like sitting in the back seat of their pre-runners, and we'd have to put a bunch of pillows on them so I could see over the dashboard. I wanted to get into the cars as early as I could, and then I'm just very blessed and happy to be able to be competing with them now.
I was probably 6 years old, 7 years old, and the trophy carts just came out. It was a huge phenomenon, and we created the modified cart for me and my cousins and Zane, and we did it because we wanted to go have fun with our parents who were racing the Pro 4s and whatnot, and we were out there battling with our cousins. I always wanted to be, obviously everybody's hero is their dad, and my dad still is my hero to this day, and he wanted me to go racing for my career, and I wanted to do that as well. So we kind of looked at the asphalt stuff, and we went late model racing, Legends car racing, and now I can dabble back and forth in both series. Like people say in the asphalt industry, I don't think the general population understands how important a tire is. When people look at a race car, they think the chassis, the motor, the suspension, and then you have to ask them the only one question: what's the only thing that touches the surface of the ground? And that's the tire. So personally, I think that's one of the most important pieces of a race car is the tires, and the BF Goodrich rubber that we run on is incredible. We just ran the Baja 1000 back in November, and we didn't have one flat. And the things we go through, the rocks we hit, how fast we go, for the durability of the tire to go from 120 miles an hour, then to go rock climbing at 6 miles an hour, but to maintain all that is second to none.
Getting to off-road was an interesting way. My dad and Mr. Collins took us on a family vacation to Hawaii and rented some Myers Mannix to take us around the island. And they thought that was pretty fun, so those two sides, hey, let's go off-roading in these things. So they off-roaded for a while, and then my dad was always big on keeping us together. He said, okay, let's get serious into the off-road side, and so we started really getting involved into it and understanding it, and then we love it. It's the passion that we all have inside of us, and wanted to see how far we could take it.
It was surprising, but we really started spending some time out in the desert. We went out at least a couple times in the week, and we'd go out in our backyard and go right out to the desert and start driving around, try to hit things as fast as we could to see what would break so we could fix it and make sure it didn't break again. So. After a couple seasons in SCORE, we started doing fairly well, won a bunch of races, and say, well, let's take it to the next level and try to get a truck. And we came out with the first four-wheel drive to win the SCORE championship. And it was quite something. It did great in the washes. It did great coming down the washes. It limited a little bit on travel up front, but at the time it was quite something.
We had built everything in-house except for our motor program. So we built transmissions, shocks, all the cars. I mean, we did everything in-house, and we needed to do it in-house because that's how you need to have your competitive edge. You didn't want to show anybody what you're doing, what was going on. And we were getting a little older, and we were starting to look at the future. And we said, all right, let's take all of our collective thoughts, let's see what's out there, and let's go build something. Let's build something that nobody else can do with our talent and our quality. And so We designed what we believe today is probably one of the best 6100 trucks out there. And that class is growing tremendously. And I think you'd have more victories in trophy truck. It's just that, well, you saw Ryan Arciero win the Vegas to Reno over all the four-wheel drives. So they can beat the four-wheel drives. We think they still can. And you can put the right drivers in there on the trophy truck side, and there's no question we can beat the four-wheel drives with our suspension and what we have.
It goes back to our roots of doing it as a family together. No matter what happens, we're having fun, but that's what it's all about. It's just a family. This is a dream come true for me.
It is the biggest blessing. I love hanging out with my cousins and my dad and uncle and my brother, obviously. It's an awesome thing to be able to say you can do. To spend the time, obviously, in the Mint, down in Mexico, around the West Coast, it's a real treat.
The Mint 400 is a lot different from any other race. Down in Baja, you kind of take a little bit more time, don't go full 100% or else you're gonna wreck the truck, but in the Mint 400, each lap starts getting a little bit more rough and a little bit more rough, and you know that's the challenging part to it, but you really gotta push very fast and try and go as hard as you can because everyone's all tight together in these loop course races, and you just gotta make as few mistakes as possible and really stick to your game plan.
It wears you down. There are 4 different laps, you know, as you know. That 4th lap is been traveled on quite a bit, and it changes lap to lap, but that 4th lap is the most challenging lap, I think, of all off-road racing. You just, when does this stuff end? When do these whoops that just got here, these deep whoops, when does this thing end?
When you go from a Class 8, which would be 8,000 pounds and maybe 80 mile an hour and have a certain suspension, that tire was okay because you really couldn't give it. But when you start going 800-900 horsepower and you go a 6,000 pound Landshark and all of a sudden your speeds are 120 mile an hour, that is a different dynamic for that tire. And they were starting to have some issues, and they said, okay, we're gonna get on top of this, let's go. And I do remember, it wasn't 2-day test, it was 3, 4, 5-day tests until they'd bring a load of tires out, and you were tired at the end. I mean, and they got it right, but it took a lot of time and effort.
This sport would be nothing without BFG. The Mint, it is crazy that those tires can go through that rough of a course without giving out. Those tires are absolutely incredible. And not only the tires, the people have been amazing.
BFGs, I mean, are some of the best tires out there for sure, if not the best. And just put it this way, we raced the entire Baja 1000 without a single flat, so that's not a very easy thing to do. And I think the way that these tires are built, they can handle anything.
I've never gotten a flat in off-road racing. And I think that's such a credit to BF Goodrich Racing, their tires that they make, and everybody who do get flat, they're not on BF Goodrich's, so I don't understand why you wouldn't want to be on the best tire, because that gives you the best advantage.
I think obviously you need a driver, you need a truck, you need a crew, you need everything else, but you do need tires. You need to keep them on your truck. And I think it definitely, in today's world, the BFG is way above their competitors. It is a very special event, you know, from downtown to the desert. Every piece of that event is something very, very special. In my world of off-road racing, you know, if we could win the Mint 400, I think I'd let the kids take over my truck. If I could honestly say that I could win that race overall, I'd say, all right, Pierce and Thor, here you go. I'm gonna get in the helicopter and eat chicken and drink a couple beers.
There's nothing better than to win in your own backyard. And this being our backyard, spending all the time, as we talked about, in the desert, to go and race the Mint and then to win, it's just so special. It's hard to explain. When you cross that line, you almost start crying. You've accomplished something that I've wanted to accomplish since I was a little kid. So when you finally realize what you've done, it chokes you up a little bit, and then you realize you can't do it all by yourself, but we had some really good pit guys and really good cars, and it's an amazing feeling.